You're not paranoid, your nervous system is just doing exactly what it was trained to do. Survival. You've been called guarded, defensive, too much. People say you need to work on your trust issues like it's a character flaw you chose, like you're sabotaging good relationships because you enjoy suffering. But here's what they don't understand. Trust isn't a decision your prefrontal cortex makes on a Tuesday afternoon. It's a physiological state your autonomic nervous system either permits or forbids based on data it collected years before you had language to describe what was happening. Your body is running threat detection software written in childhood, and it's still scanning every room, every conversation, every silence for danger signals that once predicted harm. This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition. Your nervous system learned its job in an environment where vigilance kept you safe, where letting your guard down had consequences, where the people who were supposed to signal safety instead signaled unpredictability. And now, years later, your body still believes it's in that environment. It never got the memo that the war ended. I had a client, let's call her Maya, who couldn't understand why she'd interrogate her partner every time he came home 20 minutes late. She'd check his phone, analyze his tone, construct elaborate explanations for minor inconsistencies. She hated herself for it, called herself crazy. Her partner called her exhausting. But when we mapped her childhood, a pattern emerged. Her father was an alcoholic whose mood shifted without warning. Young Maya learned to read micro-expressions, vocal inflections, the sound of his car in the driveway to predict whether she'd face warmth or rage. By age 7, she could detect a threat from 3 rooms away based on the weight of footsteps. That hypervigilance saved her. It was adaptive. Brilliant, even. Her nervous system became a prediction machine so sophisticated it could forecast emotional weather patterns before the first cloud appeared. The problem? That machine never shut off. 30 years later, it's still running the same program, scanning her kind, sober, stable partner for threat signals that don't exist. Here's what actually happens in your nervous system. The vagus nerve, your body's built-in safety detection system, is constantly asking one question. Am I safe right now? Not consciously. This happens below your awareness, processing hundreds of cues per second. Chinese letter micro-expressions around someone's eyes, vocal prosody shifts of just 20 hertz, body language tilts as subtle as 3 degrees, environmental context like echo patterns in a room. Stephen Porges, in his polyvagal theory research from the 1990s, calls this neuroception, threat detection that bypasses your thinking brain entirely, operating through ancient brainstem circuits. When your neuroception detects safety, your ventral vagal system activates. Your heart rate variability increases measurably, intervals between beats become more variable, a sign of flexibility. Your facial muscles soften, particularly around your mouth and forehead. You become capable of connection, play, intimacy. But when neuroception detects danger or even the absence of clear safety signals, your sympathetic nervous system mobilizes within 200 milliseconds. Heart rate spikes, pupils dilate, blood flows to large muscle groups. You know that feeling when someone gets too close emotionally and suddenly you need space you can't explain. When intimacy triggers the urge to find problems, manufacture distance, prepare exit strategies, that's not commitment phobia, that's dorsal vagal shutdown. When your nervous system can't fight or flee from perceived danger, it has one option left: immobilization, collapse, dissociation. You're not choosing to pull away, your body is executing an ancient mammalian response to threat when escape isn't possible. And intimacy, for a nervous system that never learned safety, feels like threat, because vulnerability requires the physiological state of safety to even be possible. When someone shows up consistently, when there are no chaos patterns to track, when you can't predict the danger because there isn't any, your nervous system doesn't relax. It escalates. Because predictable threat is less terrifying than not knowing where the threat is. Your body would rather manufacture problems it can monitor than sit in the intolerable uncertainty of actual safety. So you scan for red flags, you test boundaries. Maya came back 3 weeks later with a question that broke my heart. If my body thinks everyone's dangerous, how do I ever let anyone in? And I told her the truth: you don't convince your nervous system with logic. You can't think your way into safety. Your prefrontal cortex can know intellectually that your partner is trustworthy, but that information doesn't reach the brainstem structures running your threat responses. This is why affirmations don't work. Why you can't positive think your way out of hypervigilance. Your nervous system speaks in sensation, not language. It needs experiences, not explanations. Coregulation, the process of your nervous system borrowing safety from someone else's regulated state, is how mammals learn safety. Infants don't self-soothe. They learn regulation through thousands of repetitions of caregiver presence during distress. But if your caregivers weren't regulated themselves, if they were the source of threat, your nervous system never completed that fundamental learning. You didn't get those 10,000 hours of borrowed calm. The research on this is staggering. Bessel van der Kolk's work at the Trauma Center showed that adults with complex developmental trauma have measurably different activation patterns in the amygdala and insula, the brain regions processing threat and interoception. These aren't temporary changes. This is neuroplastic reorganization. Your brain physically restructured itself around the environmental demands of your childhood. MRI studies show that people with insecure attachment have heightened amygdala response to neutral faces. Your brain literally sees threat in expressions other people code as safe. And it's not just imaging, heart rate variability studies show that people who grew up in unpredictable environments have lower vagal tone, meaning less capacity to flexibly shift between states. Your window of tolerance, the zone where you can experience emotion without dysregulation, is narrower. What feels like overwhelming intimacy to you might register as normal closeness to someone whose nervous system learned safety early. You're not overreacting. Your body is reacting proportionally to the threat level it perceives. Here's where Maya's story shifted. 6 months in, she stopped trying to fix her thoughts and started tracking her body. When suspicion arose, she'd notice racing heart, shallow breath, muscle tension. She learned to name the state, "I'm in sympathetic activation," without judgment, not "I'm crazy," not "something's wrong with him," just "my nervous system is detecting threat." Then came the hardest part, she had to let her partner see her in that state. To say, "I'm dysregulated right now and it's not about you, but I need you to know I'm not okay." That vulnerability terrified her more than any imagined betrayal. But something unexpected happened. When her partner responded with calm presence, not trying to fix her, not getting defensive, just steady, her nervous system began collecting new data. Thousands of micro moments of, "I showed my fear and the threat didn't materialize. I let someone see me dysregulated and they didn't exploit it." Her vagal brake, the system that inhibits panic, started to strengthen, not through affirmations. But let's be brutally honest. Not everyone gets a patient partner willing to co-regulate through your dysregulation. Some of you are reading this thinking, "That's great for Maya, but I'm alone and I can't afford therapy." So here's what you need to know. Your nervous system can learn safety in other contexts too. The polyvagal theory points to specific pathways. Anything that stimulates the ventral vagal system can begin to rewire threat responses over time. Bilateral stimulation, walking, running, swimming. Vocalization, humming, singing, chanting activates vagal pathways through the larynx. Cold water on your face triggers the mammalian dive reflex, immediately activating parasympathetic response. These aren't coping skills. These are biological interventions that speak directly to the brainstem. You're hacking your nervous system at the hardware level, and repetition matters more than intensity. 5 minutes daily of vagal toning practice creates more neuroplastic change than occasional hour-long attempts. You're not trying to convince yourself you're safe. So when someone calls you paranoid, guarded, too much, remember this, you're not broken. Your body executed a brilliant adaptive strategy to survive an environment that was genuinely unsafe. The hypervigilance that exhausts you now is the same mechanism that protected you then. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between past and present threat, it only knows patterns. And the pattern it learned was, let your guard down, get hurt. That wasn't irrational, that was data. The work now isn't about forcing yourself to trust. It's about giving your nervous system new data repeatedly until the old pattern becomes obsolete. It's about finding relationships and contexts where safety is consistent enough, predictable enough that your body can risk the vulnerability of updating its threat models. And some days you'll regress. You'll scan for danger that isn't there. You'll push away someone who's actually safe. That's not failure. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. The difference is now you know this response isn't you. Maya texted me last month. I let him see me cry without apologizing for it, and I didn't scan his face for disgust. I just cried. That's what healing looks like. Not perfect trust, not the absence of fear, just the slow accumulation of moments where your body doesn't have to choose between connection and safety, where you can be vulnerable and regulated at the same time. That's the nervous system integration that was supposed to happen in childhood but didn't, and it's happening now. Late, hard-won, painfully slow, but happening. Your body is capable of learning new patterns. It just needs the right conditions, enough repetition, and the mercy of knowing that your vigilance was never the problem. It was the solution. In tomorrow's video, we'll explore why the people you're most attracted to are often the ones who trigger your deepest dysregulation, and what your nervous system is really seeking when it mistakes chaos for chemistry. Subscribe so you don't miss it. If the video resonated with you, hit subscribe. Uncomfortable Truths drops a new uncomfortable truth tomorrow and every day after on personal finance, relationships, mindset, and productivity, and more. Turn on notifications so you're first to see it. The truth is uncomfortable, but it's always worth it.